This third and final video is designed to give you some ideas on how you want to move forward with completing this assignment. So the Solar Shield case is about you developing some financial fluency with using the spreadsheets, being able to compute rates of return, and then also taking aspects of the deal that we talked about and how you evaluate the various deals and putting all that all together and taking a financing case and comparing some options and see which one you would choose. I'll get more into that in a minute, but let me explain to you the handout. This is largely a repeat of what we talked about in the other background information. From the work that you've already got available to you on the spreadsheet that I have posted to D2L, there's new data that you can use to extend these pro formas to 5 years. All this new data is italicized. So you can see here it's what happens month 37 and following. See that data there. The cost of revenue we're going to assume remains at $1,400. Here are some SGA expenses for years 4 and 5. Nothing changes in these two cells. For personnel, we'll assume the salaries double in year 4 and 5 as the company seems to be making more money. No changes here, no changes here. And so now what you're going to see is the entrepreneurs have two equity offers, and one of the entrepreneurial team is not going to be impressed with either one of those offers because he doesn't like the terms of the builders cramming down their throat for the first year. And so he's going to propose that they do this all via bootstrapping, and that will be option C. Let's jump into it. So to be clear, well, I'll be clear in a second. The first option is an angel in the Austin, Texas vicinity who offers to invest $1.5 million in exchange for the equity described below. And now you're going to see several elements of the terms: the type of equity, the valuation, the share price, conversion rights, board participation, liquidation preference, dividend policy, and redemption rights. So all of these things are part of your first offer, if you will. You have a second offer for equity. This is actually from the home builder itself. They're so impressed with the deal that they want a part of your action, and they want to be the provider of the capital. So again, they're offering $1.5 million. You can see the valuation's a little bit different. And then you're going to have to evaluate the differences in these elements as you get into evaluating the deal. Everything that's not mentioned here, you can assume is equal. There's lots of terms that aren't mentioned between the two deals. Just assume that they're equal on those points. As I've alluded to, though, one of the entrepreneurs says, hey, this is crazy. We don't need to take this equity offer. We need to go out and try to sell this thing ourselves to other independent builders and to people who want the conversion. But you're going to see that you have to make a lot of changes. You have to significantly slow down the sales because you don't have a builder selling it. As they do new construction, you're actually going to have to get out and sell it yourself. Your cost of revenue changes slightly because your volume never goes up high enough in your 5-year projections to justify the lower price. You're going to vastly reduce your operating expenses. You're going to, for the first couple of years, you're going to see they're going to operate without salary, and only at year 3 and onward they're going to pay themselves. So you're going to have a very different option to look at with option C, which is just the radical bootstrap option. Now let's get into the assignment. Here's what you're going to do with all of this information you've been working on. What I want you to do is I want you to develop 3 to 5 criteria that matter to you. Some of them are going to have to do with financial considerations, strictly financial. Some are going to have to do with deal term considerations. Some are kind of a mix of both of them. But you're going to have to tell me what's your criteria for evaluating this deal. So honestly, That's the first graded part is, were you looking at the right things? And I want you to write a paragraph about each of the criteria, what it is, and why it's important to you. Then you're going to have to evaluate each of the deals. And I want you to specifically copy and turn in this table in your Word document uh, where, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. What you're going to do is you're going to run scenarios where you're going to assume the company gets bought at the end of year 3, the end of year 4, and the end of year 5. You're going to value the company as 6 times the company's EBIT for that year. So for each of the 3 options, A, B, and C, you're running 3 scenarios: purchased at the end of year 3, year 4, and year 5. So this is where you're going to get into some hard number crunching. Where you're going to figure out what's the investor going to get, what are you going to get, and then you're going to have to compute the investor IRR. Obviously, in option C, all you need to calculate is what the entrepreneurs get, because there's not going to be an investor gets and an investor IRR. So you're going to create these 3 to 5 criteria, and then you're going to evaluate each of the options, A, B, and C, using your criteria. And as you're evaluating those options, it's okay to me if you use bullet points. So if you say, for example, one of my criteria is how much I, as the entrepreneur, are going to be getting, then you can calculate that. Or you can just put in there, this is what it looks like year 1, year 2, 3. This is what I think. This is what our company would be worth in this year. And then at the end of the assignment, I want you to tell me, this is what one I choose and why. Obviously, you've done most of the work up here when you're simply evaluating it, but you're going to find you may be conflicted. And I want to tell you right up front, there is not a right answer hiding out there. It's not that option A is clearly better than B is C or anything like that. What matters is how you evaluate it. So don't be surprised if a third of you choose option A, a third of you choose option B, and a third of you choose option C. It's going to matter, or it's going to depend on what matters to you, because I've created some differences in there in the scenarios or in the various offers. They're going to have subtle points. They're going to tap into your preferences. Now, one thing I want to be very clear about, I don't mind if you collaborate on this assignment with your classmates, but there are some pretty clear limits on that collaboration. And if you feel really stuck, obviously I'm always here as a resource for you. And so let me tell you right up front what I don't want. I don't want one person doing the spreadsheet work and then sharing their spreadsheet work with others. I want each of you to wrestle with the spreadsheets. I want each of you to wrestle with the calculations. And so you can't do that. You can cross-check your answers. You can talk about how you came up with that answer, and somebody will say, well, I did it differently, but you can't electronically share your answers so that somebody can just say, oh, that looks good, I'm going to save that. Now, I considered having all of you submit your spreadsheets. I decided against that, but I'm going to leave that as an option. If I get a hint that someone has perhaps electronically shared spreadsheets, I'm going to have all those people submit their spreadsheets back to me, and then I'm going to turn into an MIS forensic scientist or something to make sure that there wasn't any cheating going on. So yes, you can talk about it. Yes, you can help each other. Just don't share your spreadsheets and your calculations. And so if you do collaborate, and again, I have no problem with you collaborating, but if you do, then I want you to include this statement at the top of your assignment and just fill in the blanks. I collaborated with the names of the people you collaborated with, and I talked about these things. We cross-checked our answers. We talked about which criteria we liked. We talked about how to compute an IRR, anything like that. So, this is a little bit of, I want to see if everybody's story matches. I hate to do all this, but it's just important for me that you do your own work, and this is, to me, the least onerous way for me to validate that. Let me give you one last tip. I would recommend that you take a set of the spreadsheets and you save them independently for each option. In other words, I would recommend you have an option A file, an option B file, and an option C file, because there are some slight differences even between option A and option B that you might want to make some alterations to the spreadsheets. Obviously, for option C, you have to make dramatic changes to the spreadsheet to deal with the reduced sales and the like. And so it just makes sense to have an independent assessment for that. We'll have in other videos, I'll be talking about how to compute IRRs and the like in terms of the deal. So you're going to get more information. You should have already seen that information before you dive into the assignment. I think you're going to enjoy this because you're going to make a decision based on what's important to you and based on the accuracy of your numbers. Good luck. Give me a shout if you got questions.